about a year ago over coffee, I had a friend of mine share this idea with me. I want drinking water fountains in my community. And you see, at the time, I was particularly interested in these kinds of ideas because I had recently launched a community crowdfunding website that allowed citizens to pursue their ideas for the community. And so we spoke for a little while. I remember thinking that my friend spoke with so much conviction just about this idea. You see, he was an avid runner, and he began to tell me about a little bit about runners, how carrying water on your back while jogging, sloshing around, was such an inconvenience. Same with water bottles. On those 10, 15-mile runs, it wasn't practical to carry that water bottle around. And he also told me that runners plan their running routes around water sources. And by water sources, I mean water faucets or dirty hoses, right? See, it seems a bit dramatic, I know, and my friend was onto something. And it wasn't that runners were high maintenance, although that's what I thought at the time. It was that we live in a community where people are active. We live in a community where children play in our neighborhoods, where pedestrians walk and bike, and yes, where runners run. And so we knew that this idea was worthy of pursuit. We knew it was something that we had to consider. And so, like any idea of pursuing any idea, you have to come up with a plan for execution. But this plan we knew had to be a perfect plan. It had to be a plan that was foolproof, that we could follow all along. And so the first thing that we thought of was, how many fountains can this community support? We said 10. We said, no, that's just too little. We need more. 15, 20, maybe even 30. We'll just see. We'll come back to that question later. The second thing we had to consider was that fountains, they couldn't just be any fountains, right? They had to be really nice, maybe artistic in design. They had to have zest and appeal. So we said, we got it. We live in Acadiana. This is a place where there are so many creative minds. We said we were going to launch a community contest. We were going to invite all of the artists, all of the sculptors to one place, the community minds, and they were going to submit all of their ideas. And in those submissions, we were going to draw them to spec, and we were going to build them. And we said, no, that's actually a terrible idea. We both have 9-to-5 jobs, and we don't have that kind of time. So we're just going to use college students. Wouldn't that make sense? If that didn't work, well, we just know a guy. Everybody knows a guy. And then we said, well, we have to consider cost. $1,000, right? That's a nice even number. We know we could get it for cheaper. I mean, we do know people in the community, right? So we didn't stop there. We said that these fountains, because they were so pretty, because they were artistic in design, they had to be strategically placed. We had to put them all around Acadiana, or in Lafayette. And what we did was we took a map. We took a map and we drew a loop around the city, targeting specific areas where people are most active. We said, no, we have to make this better. So we said, we're going to make this loop a perfect 26.2-mile loop, and it's going to be a marathon loop. Runners were going to love us. Then we took it a step further. Let's make it into a cool shape, right? Both of us were UL graduates, so we said that we're going to make it in the shape of the UL hand symbol. And we were going to call it the Ragin' Cajun Loop. Made sense. This is about 4 cups of coffee into the conversation, and we're still not done yet, right? We had a timeline of 60 days. It was October 2014, and we said we were going to have it funded after the holidays. 30 days for funding. We're going to break ground on day 31, day 60 that we were going to be done with the project. We're going to crowdfund the entire project. And we just knew. We knew that the community would support this. We knew we already had the buy-in of the community as well. My fellow citizens, this is your brain on coffee. And unfortunately, this is how ideas work. And we actually didn't stop there. We said that this perfect plan for execution was so good that we were going to put it in a pretty little box with a cute bow on top, and then we're going to hand it to other cities around Acadiana and say, here, you hydrate your citizens. And then after Acadiana, we're going to take it statewide. And then after we go statewide, we're going to go nationwide. We were going to rid thirst forever with drinking water fountains. And so if you're not following what I'm saying, and I haven't been completely obvious, maybe this graph helps. There's a direct correlation between the amount of cups of coffee that you consume and your ambition. You see, there was a disconnect between the ideal that we imagined and reality. So let's take a look at what that reality looks like. It doesn't look like 15, 20, or 30 water fountains. It actually looks like 8. 8 water fountains with a price tag of $1,800. Yeah, we knew a guy. And you see, it was difficult placing these fountains because homeowners actually had to adopt the fountains. They couldn't go in public property. They had to go on private property. So we had to be outside of the easement, which meant homeowners had to adopt the fountains in their front yard. So we had issues like liability, insurance, and even resale value. Some people didn't want them. And that beautiful 26.2-mile loop in the shape of a UL Raging Cajun hand symbol looks something like this. It wasn't 26.2 miles at all. It actually looks like a manatee laying on his back. If you tilt your head in other directions, I'm sure you could come up with something better than I did. We thought the two of us could take on the project ourselves. We needed over 10 volunteers, sacrificing their time and energy. And that perfect plan for execution was imperfect. This pretty box that we had talked about was beautiful on the outside, but empty on the inside. We felt like we were letting our community down. We felt like, as citizens, we were just awfully inefficient. And now I stand before you 1 year later since that conversation over coffee. We're fully funded. We raised $15,000 in 60 days, and we're 3 days away from breaking ground on our first fountain. Thank you. And we couldn't have done it without the community rallying behind us, honestly. It's important to point out, though, that not all projects are created equal. This was a project that downtown Lafayette brought to us, and it happened before the drinking water fountain project. And they came to us and they said, we want to install Lafayette's first parklet. We want to build a parklet in Lafayette. We launched this project on a Tuesday morning. It was fully funded 4.5 hours later, and then it was installed in just 2 weekends. See, this is an example of an efficient project. You've probably had your po' boy or your coffee at this parklet. It's right down the street. And the point I really want to make is whether you're living on the excitement of a project like installing a parklet in your community, or you're struggling trying to install just 8 water fountains, the byproduct is the same. The byproduct is that you find yourself falling more and more in love with your community than ever before. You see the landscape of your community with different eyes. You begin to appreciate the work of your public officials. And you see those problems as opportunities. See, citizen-led projects are hard. And so we take all of our experience over the last year, and we put it together, and we try and create this recipe for success. I believe there are 3 voices in the community. There's the I wants, the you cans, and the I wills. The I wants are those citizens that express their ideas for creating the environment for which they want to live. Those ideas can be big or small, right? They can be pure. They can be innocent ideas. They can also be really realistic and fun and engaging. Or they can be whatever it is you really want them to be. The I wants are the citizens of the community, and they have a voice. The second voice is the you cans. The you cans are our public officials and key decision makers, right? That call us to action, that say, you can act. You can act in your community even if you don't know the best way to get there. And so when we took these chalkboards to the streets, to the community, and knocking on the doors of our public officials, by the way, there was a unified theme, and it was this. It was that you can lead. as a public official, I want to empower you, my fellow citizens, to lead in your community. That's a powerful message. The third and final voice is the I wills. The I wills are those businesses that stand up and say, I will support or I will pledge to the I wants. Or maybe it's a citizen that stands up and says, I will pledge $20 to Jillian Johnson's Victory Garden. And in that pledge, that citizen feels like there are thousands of others just like her, truly believing in the concept of many hands make up for light work. And you see, the problem is that the I wants, the you cans, and the I wills don't talk often enough. Or if they do talk, they're not engaging in a conversation where you're truly creating change in your community. So what if for a moment we did? What if we brought the I wants, the you cans, and the I wills together into the same room at the same time? And what we did is we asked the I wants to come together and collaborate on those ideas. Right? And we ask them to form teams, friends, families, students, co-workers, maybe even strangers of interest, and collaborate on those ideas. And in that collaborative effort, we provide resources. We provide all the resources you need. If you want to build something, we provide a handyman. If you need a plumber, electrician. If you need to promote a project, we give you a social media expert. If you need to create a video, we give you a videographer. All the resources that you need. And then we bring in the you cans, those public officials and key decision makers in the community. And we ask them to donate one weekend out of the year to come together and to connect with the citizens in a way that we've never done before. We ask the you cans to be a soundboard for the ideas of the I wants. We ask them to help the citizens vet those ideas and approve those ideas. And then lastly, we bring in the I wills. The I wills of the businesses. We ask them to come for one night to hear the I wants. The I wants pitch their ideas for the community, their approved and vetted ideas by the public officials. And we do this all in 48 hours. We call it the 48-hour Citizen Project. A creative and fun event where we break down the barriers between your desires in the community and executing them. You see, we have an opportunity. We have an opportunity to engage citizens and public officials in a way that we've never done before. We have the opportunity to increase the number of community projects, and we have the opportunity to convert private funding towards public projects. You see, that morning over coffee was nothing more than a citizen saying, I want drinking water fountains, but I really have no idea how to get there. We started on a path of destruction, obviously, but we ended up enlightened along the way. We have to put the tools in the citizens' hands so that they can create the environment for which they want to live. Put the tools in citizens' hands, and we sit back and watch what they do. And that's our conviction, but we're not there yet. Thank you. Thank you.